This is a film about an activity that we do at Bump to Baby for peer supporters to have a look at. And the activity is about how the experience of care impacts on babies' brain development. Did you know that when babies are born, their brain is about half the size of their brain when they're a year old? So their brain roughly doubles in size in the first year. And that's not because they grow more brain cells, it's because of the connections that they make between the cells they already have. Brain growth in the first year is really, really important for babies. And the growth of those connections is influenced by hormones. And our hormones are influenced by the experiences that we have. And babies are just the same. So when we feel happy and secure and well attached and loved and we know what's going to come next, we produce positive hormones, and particularly oxytocin. That's a hormone. It's a love hormone. It's the hormone that we produce when we feel good. It's the hormone we produce when we fall in romantic love. It's the hormone we produce when we meet our babies and when they meet us. Babies are just the same. When they feel happy and secure and loved and well attached and they know what's coming next, they produce oxytocin. And that makes them feel even better. And so they seek out experiences that will produce that hormone. And brain connections are made under the influence of oxytocin. And those are positive brain connections associated with positive, happy memories. I want you to imagine that those brain connections made under the influence of oxytocin are represented by this white wool. Happy experiences, positive experiences, high levels of oxytocin and brain connections, brain growth happening under the influence of that is this white wool. When we feel worried or insecure or anxious or not sure what's going to happen next, we feel stressed and we produce stress hormones, and those are hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. So if we're feeling worried about things, we're not sure what's going to happen next, we produce those hormones and it makes our heart beat faster, it pushes up our blood pressure, makes us feel anxious. And babies are just the same. If they're not sure what's going to happen next, if they're not sure if someone's coming to help them, if they don't feel securely attached to people around them, they produce stress hormones because it's stressful. And they continue to make brain connections under the influence of those stress hormones. And I want you to imagine that those brain connections are represented by this red wool. Okay, so when they feel worried, they make brain connections under the influence of those stress hormones, and that is red wool. So I'm going to tell a little story, all right, and you're going to see how baby's brain grows under the influence of the hormones it produces in response to its experiences. Okay, so when a baby's being born, well, giving birth is exciting, it's stressful, it's worrying, it's exhilarating. For most people, it's at the very least uncomfortable. And it's the same for babies too. You know, when a baby's being born, everybody's stress hormones are right up there, and baby is as well. So brain connections are being made under the influence of those stress hormones. As baby's being pushed or pulled out, then brain connections are being made under the influence of that stress. But baby's body is expecting that, okay? So that's a normal experience for baby. And then, when baby is born, it's a great relief for everybody, not least mum. And other birth partner, and for the baby too. And as the baby's put skin to skin, it starts to produce oxytocin, so does mum, because she's pleased to see the baby, she can smell her baby, she can see her baby, get to know them, her oxytocin levels go up, and baby's oxytocin levels go up. And brain connections are made under the influence of that oxytocin. Okay, so those are positive brain connections associated with that lovely memory and experience of being skin to skin with mum and hearing her heartbeat slow down, hearing her breathing slow down, her adrenaline levels dropping, her oxytocin levels coming up. And then maybe the baby looks a bit of a funny colour, or it's breathing a bit funny, and the midwife thinks, oh, actually, I need to have a look at that baby. So she says to the parents, look, baby's breathing a bit funny, I just need to take him off over there a minute and make sure he's okay. All right, so she takes the baby from skin to skin with mum. And that's stressful. It's stressful for mum. Her adrenaline levels go right back up again. She's thinking, gosh, is my baby okay? And for the baby too, the baby's thinking, what on earth is happening? I thought I was there with my mum. So the midwife takes the baby off, maybe shines rather a bright light in its eyes, has a look at it, makes sure it's okay. And that's a bit stressful for the baby. And of course, the baby's okay, all right, because they looked on. And so she brings the baby back to the parents, wrapped up in a towel, and says, oh, he's absolutely fine, okay? And she gives him back to the parents, and the parents think, oh, thank goodness for that. And these parents know it's really important to have the baby skin to skin, so they unwrap the baby and they put it back skin to skin, and the baby thinks, oh, yes, there's my mum's familiar heartbeat, there's her familiar voice, and dad or other birth partner, there's their familiar voice, there's that smell of my mum, there's my oxytocin levels going up, and brain connections are being made under the influence of that. Okay, so you can see you've got a mix of different things there, all right, because things happen. And it's not the end of the world, it's not that we're perfect, but it's what you do that makes a difference, okay? So then imagine this baby a couple of weeks later waking up in its cot, okay? And that's nice, because it feels all nice and snuggly and warm, and there's familiar smells and familiar sounds. The baby's thinking, oh, lovely, someone will be here for me in a minute. Good, good, good. Oxytocin levels are high and brain connections are being made. And these parents know it's really important to keep the baby close by, so they've got the baby in the same room as them, okay? So as they hear the baby sort of wriggling a bit and snuggling, they think, oh, baby's awake. They go, oh, baby, hello. Maybe pick the baby up and give it a cuddle, and the baby thinks, oh, yes, that's what I expected. And perhaps it's the mum that picks the baby up, and she thinks, I think you probably want feeder, but actually I'm busting for the loo, and it's probably going to take me at least half an hour to feed you, and by that time I'm going to be in trouble, so I'm going to have to go to the loo. So she puts the baby down, okay? And the baby thinks, what? What on earth are you doing? Don't put me down, but she's got to go to the loo, okay? Sometimes you've got to go to the loo, sometimes you've got to have a shower, sometimes you've got to go to Tesco's, sometimes you've got to pick the other kids up from school, or whatever. But the baby doesn't know that, so that's a little bit stressful for it. So it starts to wriggle a bit, maybe squeak a little bit even, okay? And then of course, mum comes back from the loo, picks the baby up, gives it a cuddle, reassures it, maybe puts it skin to skin, feeds it, carries it around a bit, and oxytocin levels come back up again, okay? So you can see you've got a mixed picture, all right? And that's always going to be the same. It's never going to be all white or all red, or generally not, because things happen, right? But it's what you do with the consequences of things that happen that makes a difference literally to how the baby's brain grows. Being born, right, you know this story already, it's stressful. Everybody in this room knows this story. It's stressful, it's scary, it's at the least uncomfortable, and for the baby too. And then when the baby is born, that's a relief for everybody, and the baby goes skin to skin and hears mum's heartbeat slowing down and senses her oxytocin levels rising and baby's oxytocin levels rising, and those brain connections are being made under the influence of that positive hormone, okay, and that's all good. And then perhaps this baby looks a bit of a funny colour or is breathing a bit funny. The midwife says, oh, actually, I think I need to check your baby out. So she takes the baby from skin to skin. It's a little bit stressful for everybody. And so stress hormones are produced and brain connections are made under the influence of that. And of course, this baby's okay and fine. And so she brings the baby back to the parents and she says, oh, he's fine, don't worry. And he's wrapped up, okay? And perhaps these parents don't know that it's really important to have the baby skin to skin. So he comes back wrapped up and they think, oh, what should we do? Oh, I suppose we better dress him. Okay, so they start dressing him. And that's not what the baby's expecting. And so they start dressing the baby. The baby's thinking, what on earth are you doing? That's a bit stressful for him. And maybe he starts to wriggle a bit. And maybe he starts to squeak a little bit because he's thinking, why are you doing this to me? I wanted to be skin to skin so I could get that reassurance and have those positive hormones. And the parents say, well, we just have to carry on, not because they're bad people, but just because they're thinking, well, I don't know what else to do. Okay, and then maybe the baby squeaks a bit and then thinks, look, no skin to skin's forthcoming here, probably no food either. I should just go to sleep. Okay, so the baby's dressed and they think, oh, what should we do? We'll put him down in his cot. Okay, as I say, not because they're bad people, but because they just don't know that that's not the greatest thing to do. And so this baby has had a slightly stressful experience, but it hasn't had that counteracted with return to skin, and you can see how that's influenced its hormone production and its brain connections. And then maybe this baby is waking up a couple of weeks later in its cot at home, and that feels nice and warm and snuggly, familiar sounds, smells familiar, thinking, oh lovely, someone will come to me now and sort me out and give me whatever it is that I need at the moment. But maybe these parents don't know that it's really important to keep the baby close by, so maybe they've put the baby upstairs in the nursery, and of course they've put a baby monitor on. They think, well, we'll know if the baby needs us because we'll hear him cry, okay? But for the baby, that feels like being alone, okay? So as the baby starts to wake up and starts to wriggle a bit, the parents don't know, and they can't, because they can't see it, and they can't hear on the baby monitor. So the baby has to get to a point where it's really wriggling quite a lot and maybe crying before the parents hear it. And then of course, they go to the baby, of course they do. And perhaps they pick it up and the baby thinks, oh, lovely, right? But maybe these parents don't know it's really important to care for the baby responsively. Maybe somebody has said to them, oh, you don't want to pick that baby up, you make her off your own back. Or maybe somebody has said to them, you don't want to feed that any more than 4 hourly. He's winding you around his little finger. So they think, well, we fed you an hour ago and the book said not to feed you for another 3 hours, so we just have to put you down. So they put the baby down. And maybe they walk away, because maybe the book said, leave the baby to cry, they'll soon learn. Okay? And that's definitely stressful for the baby. So it's producing stress hormones and brain connections being made under the influence of those. Right, so you can see that you've got two babies with actually quite similar experiences, but a different pattern of brain growth. And it's super important because when the baby becomes a toddler, when it's between 1 and 2 years old, their brain goes through a further process of development whereby the less used, the less strong brain connections are no longer available for use. So for this baby, the less used connections, the less strong connections are the ones associated with less positive memories. Okay, so it will be those that tend to be no longer available for use, and the ones associated with those happy memories made under the influence of oxytocin that will remain. Okay? Whereas for this baby, it's the ones that have been made under the influence of stress hormones that are stronger and more frequently used. So it will tend to be the ones associated with positive memories that are no longer available for use, and the ones associated with stressful experiences that will be more predominant. So you have a baby that is less likely to expect positive experiences and less likely to seek out positive experiences because of the way that its experiences have been handled in the very early hours, days, weeks and months. And here you have a baby that expects good things to happen and will seek out those positive things because that reinforces the strong brain connections they have. So you haven't got to be perfect, but it's really important that where possible you go with what the baby's brain development is expecting, what their body is expecting, care for them responsively, and don't leave them to cry.